Welcome back to the Paranormal Girl podcast. I am your host, Kristen. I really hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode. I am still pondering some of those stories. Just outstanding, and wonderful to be able to speak with Jim. And today's episode is going to be no exception. My guest today is also an excellent storyteller who has had some bone-chilling and odd experiences with the paranormal and is also an old buddy and co-worker of mine. We used to work at the Samuel French bookstore in Hollywood together. Those kind of people who you come across in life and you just feel like you've known them before and you could just talk about anything. Yeah, that's this guy. Um, so I get to kick my boots off a little bit for today's episode, and I'm really excited to share that with you. Let's do a quick word from our sponsor, and then we are going to get right to it. Support for the Paranormal Girl podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. The leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming have already helped you tidy up all the nooks and crannies of your body's basement, but this year, Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation on that beautiful face with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Make sure you look your best this spring by using code PNG and get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. I just follow Lee around the house now saying, "Oh, look at that beard." I am so thankful he continues to put up with me. I wanted to talk today about the Beard Accessory Pack, which comes included when you purchase the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. And it includes the double-sided comb, the beard scissors, and the brush. That is the accessory pack. These might be things that the ordinary beard wearer might not think about or think about how important they actually are, but they really do help to round out the whole experience. And my partner's opinion is that they are super sweet. And I'm like, "Lee, use your words." And he said, and I quote, "I use the shit out of the brush and scissors," end quote. I don't know if he's listened to any of the recent episodes, so I'm actually unaware if he knows that I'm just literally reporting what comes out of his mouth. Some things that I learned about these items that I thought were super sweet and I wanted to share. The dual-sided comb is beechwood and naturally anti-static. The stainless steel beard scissors have an adjustable tension screw. So too loose, too taut, no problemo. Just adjust it however you want. You have the power, dudes. And the boar bristled beard brush brings best beard back, baby. And it does a whole lot of other things too. Things you just don't even think about. It exfoliates, cleanses, stimulates, massages, distributes moisture and oil, as I have mentioned before, tames, defrizzes, shapes, shines. A lot, like I said. Gets you some stimulation, gets you some distribution. Go get you all of the things that you need for the full chin chiseling experience and save 20% off and get free shipping when you use code PNG at manscaped.com. That is 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com when you use code PNG. Focus on the face and use the Beard Hedger Pro Kit for the cleanest look in the game. My guest is an actor, artist, peace seeker and keeper, and an activist with some spooky stories to share. Our discussion really went to some places I was not expecting, but sometimes those are some of the best conversations that you can have. We talk haunted places of work, ghostly children, sensitivities to subtle shifts that might key you into a paranormal environment, releasing past trauma. A shadow person even makes an appearance. This was such a fun one to have, and I have no doubt that you are going to love it. Please enjoy my conversation with Tim Coultas. Yeah, so how have you been? What have you been up to in La La Land?
In La La Land, the same as usual, just pursuing acting things. What's interesting is that there's been more. I feel like there's been more scripts or more stories based around this kind of genre, maybe of either paranormal or like space, things than I remember seeing before, which is kind of exciting and terrifying because I feel like the space things I'm all about. Like growing up, like a Star Wars kid, I'm like, whoa, that would be so great to be a part of the story that's like exploring those different things. And then the paranormal stuff, I'm not the biggest like horror fan or thing. So I feel like that stuff I am very hesitant with because I feel like once you kind of like are in that arena that it starts attracting more and more. And I'm kind of like, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, are you so you're of the opinion like energy attracts like energy?
A
Really?
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ooh, what led you to believe that?
Personal experience, like the more like just because so it's a weird phenomena that a lot of people are like, oh, like if we're talking about something like your cell phone's going to pick it up and then all of a sudden you're going to get an ad for it.
Hmm.
I feel like it's kind of the same thing but on a bigger cosmic level. Like if we were, I don't know, maybe we'll see the things that we're talking about today. I bet you within an hour, 24 hours it will somehow like coalesce or manifest or something like that. It'll be weird,
Really?
but you'll see. Yeah,
Wow.
weird law of attraction thing. It's great. It's good, and it's also you get what put out.
Right. Well, will you tell me about that? Let me know what
Of course, of course. Same, same.
Wonderful. You know what? It's yeah, I don't really think about it all that much, but I think that you are right in that what you focus on, what you tend to focus on, and that is, that's just energy, that's vibration.
Yeah,
You do start to attract these things because like for the longest time, I thought I didn't really have these kinds of experiences that we're going to talk about, your experiences. Um, and I didn't have them for a long time. And then I started the show, and it was just the strangest thing. Like, because maybe I was noticing it. And that's
yeah,
what I thought. Like, that's why I was like seeing it and having these experiences, or, maybe just because I was just matching that vibration finally. That's why, oh, all of a sudden it's just, ever present in my life,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, it's a theory, but I tend to believe in it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think a lot of people would agree with you. So, yeah, well, let's just jump right in
Sure.
because I'm very excited. So, yes, you did mention before we started recording that you have a bunch of just personal paranormal experiences, supernatural experiences. Just I would say just go for it. Let's get
Okay.
into the stories.
Well, maybe you'll be able to assist me to figure out what it was or what they were
Sure.
because I mean, you have more experience. And so I didn't have any. So there's what? How many are there? Hold on. There's that one, and okay. So this one is in the same place. It happened in the same location, and then I have another one that, well, the bookstore, and then I have another one that's not mine, but something that an investigator. I heard from an investigator a story that's about here in Hollywood. So okay, first number one is in college. There was this house um, that a bunch of students lived in. It used to be it used to be an old orphanage and was run by nuns. And so it had like a big main house and a bunch of like guest houses and stuff around it. And apparently, the people that lived there, it was all college students. So when my friend lived there, and when I would go over to visit him, I would notice there was like a front gate that went around the whole perimeter of the place. And when you walked in, no matter what time of day it was, day or night, there was like an area that just the temperature for me and maybe a couple of my other friends noticed it too, plummeted. Like sun's out, it's 85 degrees, temperature just dropped, and I always got like a creepy feeling. So when I would get to that part, I would like dart like as fast as I could, like, woo, let me get out of here. So that's the one thing. But with this house, my friend was like, "Hey, let's go." He wanted to play video games, and he invited a couple of us over to his place at night. So this is where it gets sketch. uh, and no children live in this location. But a lot of the tenants would say they would hear crying, kids crying at night, which is scary. Uh, so when we were at his place, I was like, "Oh, it's late. I gotta go." Da, da, da. And my friend was playing with him the video game, and they were like, "Oh, just a second." I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna wait downstairs." So I left by myself his room, his dorm part that's in this rickety old cabiny place. And I was walking out. I looked, and there was like 3 floors, and I just something was calling my attention, and I looked, and there was like a stairway that went like 3 ways up. And so the next floor, I was on the second floor. The third floor, I saw 2 kids that were like hanging over the edge of the thing, like
Oh,
far away. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, oh shit. And then I was like, oh, this place. It's this place. Because of the things I had heard or whatever. But I definitely saw 2 small children leap back and like hide.
oh.
And then I was like, okay, I'm out of here. I told my friend, I was like, hey, I'm gonna be outside at the car. I'm not staying here anymore. And they were like, okay, yeah, I'll be there in a second. So that was that location. So if you have any clarity on those kind of things, that's one.
Mhm. Okay, okay. Before you move on, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, let the thing that obviously jumps out at me is it was an old orphanage. Okay, so people are hearing crying. You saw these kids,
Yeah.
and it just makes me think about this. I think in the paranormal world, they tend to argue about what is the most important factor as far as like what sucks up energy. Is it the location? Is it because, something horrible or horrific happened in the past and so it like imprints just on the space? Is it the people that are there that are sensitive to that kind of stuff and attract that stuff? So I don't have any answers for you, but I literally got chills. My eyes started watering a little bit.
Well, that's good to know. Those are good. I like those different choices
Hmm.
or different options of what it like to kind of explain. And I think it's interesting. Well, so that was my first. I was like 20 something. That was like my first paranormal experience, and I just kind of was like, don't want to think about it. Move on with my life. However, a couple years later, another group of friends and I, we had traveled to New York, and I want to say this is like 2004, 2003. And when we took the subway to go to the downtown part, and we got off at where the World Trade Center had been. And I remember it was like New Year's Eve time. We were there for New Year's Eve, da, da, da. But it was cold. But when we got off on that exit, I remember the temperature just being like I was in Alaska or someplace that was super cold, more than when I had just been walking on the street, like all bundled up in the cold New York wind. It just was even more colder to me. And I was like, and it kind of, to me, triggered that memory of that other experience I just told you about that cold space. And this could all be stuff in my head because I had known what had happened there, but that's just a feeling or a sense that I got when I was there. Because then when we moved on from that area, we were exploring different areas, the temperature was not the same as it had been there.
Okay, okay, okay. So you're very sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, to temperatures, yeah, I guess, I don't
You
know.
know, not everybody notices that or puts much like stock or credence into that. I think it's just yet another piece of evidence. If you put it all together with like other things that happen, it's definitely part of the puzzle.
There is there is something kind of like the different explanations you were giving. There is something I've kind of been learning about I don't know if it's energy, but it's like healing trauma in people. And it was something that the author and doctor was explaining was like when animals go through a traumatic experience, and this includes humans, there's like obviously fight or flight, and there's a couple other, but one of them is freeze. There's like a freeze response that we kind of naturally do, and I'm sure everyone's can recall doing that at some moment in their life when something traumatic was happening. And his explanation was that it's a way that we've just been engineered so that we know like incoming death or gore or explicit pain is incoming. And so our soul kind of like not escapes, but detracts from our body so that we won't have to fully experience the incoming horrificness.
Oh.
So, so that makes me think of situations where I'm feeling like uh, the temperature thing is that those areas had certain things happen that happened and like it's still left like unresolved
Okay.
if there's the energy thing like that. Um, but then the author was also saying that like he was example saying like a cheetah chasing a baby gazelle, and when it trips up the gazelle and the gazelle falls and it's about to die, it does this thing. But then if by some miracle or whatever the baby gazelle gets away somehow, once it gets free, animals, ducks, all kinds of animals do this thing where they like shake after they've had a traumatic thing, and
Yeah.
that's what kind of brings their spirit, their soul back into them,
Hmm.
so they can continue and they won't be having that trauma in them, because us as humans, we kind of don't know about that tick uh, trick.
Mhm.
So we kind of, not that our soul is outside of our body all the time, but we don't release the trauma from this certain incident. And so it stays in us and then it manifests in like different medical problems or issues or anxiety or, like horrible mental things like da 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 da.
Oh.
So I thought that was interesting because to me, that kind of made sense for maybe why there's some paranormal type things that are
Mm.
in certain areas, because there's just like something happened and like some energy wise something happened here. Because I also will say, to take us back, I'm talking a lot, to take
No,
us back
please.
like acting stuff. I've always noticed when I have been in theaters, there's a very strong energy level in theaters, and I know it's because people have reenacted or acted like traumatic or loving or like a rageful experiences, and that energy kind of stays there. There's some kind of energy in theaters because of
Yeah.
human emotion that's been repeated over there, all kinds of different things. So it's something along those lines, and I don't have the answers and I don't know, but it's something's telling me it's like there's something in there. There's
No,
something in
you're
about
you're
that.
absolutely right. Yeah, there is something so palpable when you step into a theater. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's not everywhere in the theater. Like when you step onto the stage, especially if it's empty, if it's dark, it's
Yeah,
closed
yeah,
house and you can really pick it up. It is just so
totally.
whoo. And oftentimes I don't know if they just keep the theaters this way, but there is a drop in temperature as well. I have noticed that.
Oh,
It's like as
yeah.
soon as you step through the door, it's like whew.
The way
But
I
yeah,
yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
I used to one of my the way I kind of like paid for theater school was to be like the janitor or cleaner. So I used to clean the different theaters, and that's where I would notice it a lot because I would be there obviously at night or when like no one else is there and it's whatever. But I would always be like, "Whoa, something happened here!" Like
Whew.
whatever scenes or whatever was going on, and like something happened. Like I could feel it. I don't know.
So, can we, like, after we've gone through these intense emotions or we've had a trauma or whatever, like, I don't want to make light of it, but like, is it as simple as like we need to just shake it off? Like, what do we do?
Well, the author had said that there was the one patient that he was seeing that had uh horrible anxiety her whole life, like crippling anxiety. Like sometimes she couldn't even leave the house when it would act up and stuff. And so when he was treating her, um, she was on the couch and he was talking with her, and she started going into the panic mode. And because he had been studying these animal things, he said, I forget what her name was, but he said to her, like as she's laying there, like he's like, "Hey, a tiger just jumped out of the bushes and it's running towards us. We have to run and get up that tree over there to get safe." And without questioning like where she was, like, "I'm in your office," her body laying on the couch started like the motions of like kicking her legs and moving her feet to run,
Hmm. Hmm.
and she was like crying, panicking, da da da. And he was like, and she was like climbing a thing in her head. And when she got to where he thought, blah, 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 he's like, you're safe, you made it. And then after that was like an intense 15, 20 minutes of her like detoxing, bawling, crying, getting it all out. And she didn't necessarily shake,
Mhm.
but it was like the physical
Mm.
movement of that pent up energy that did it. And then what he found out later was that I guess when she was 5 or something, she had to have like a emergency surgery on her teeth, and nobody really explained to her at that age what exactly was going to happen. She just was like held down and strapped to a table with like no anesthesia or whatever, and like they took their teeth out. So she had like her soul probably like was whoa, I'm getting out of
Yeah.
here for this, and then somehow drifted back, but never resolved that tension or that energy that
Mm.
she had until then. And then like I don't want to say that cured her, but it improved her, like her anxiety attacks or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
Ooh.
it's different for every individual. I think it would be a different, whatever the thing was, I think it would be different, which
Mhm.
I think is a
Yeah,
whole
maybe it's just like subjective like that. Like for every person, it might be a little bit different technique that you use, but there's got to be something, and I wish it were just
yeah,
more clear cut than that because I do think that pent up like heavy energy in the dark and the anger and all of that it does cause disease,
yeah,
and chronic things.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you couldn't convince me otherwise. Well, what were you saying? There was an investigator that told you a story of something that creepy happened in Hollywood.
Yeah. So there's a place on Sunset Boulevard. Our story with our Sam French, the bookstore on Sunset Boulevard, was that I think one of our employees died there,
Oh.
the older man. So every once in a while at night, there would be like those creepy sounds or like books coming off shelves all by their own, or like creaks on the steps that went up to like the loft area that
Mm-hmm.
me and other employees would hear and be like, that's him. Like we just kind of were like, well, he's still like looking around. So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, but I never saw anything, but just those sounds and like those things that happen. That's that bookstore part. I want to hear yours. The other one was the Comedy Store on Sunset Boulevard has a the area where people go to see the comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and then it has like a basement area downstairs. And at night, this is like 10, 15 years ago, at night they had a watchman, and he was a Vietnam veteran, so he had seen a lot and been through a lot of things. And he was their night guard, night security guard, overnight security guard. And one night he had heard this sound coming from like the basement area. So he went to go see what it was. And I guess it has a stairway that goes like a narrow stairway that goes down to a
Mm-hmm.
door that
Mm-hmm.
opens into the area. So he was with his flashlight and he's like coming around and he hears like this scratching sound of the door, but maybe from like the other side. And so he's shining his light on it and he's like, the hell? And he's like, huh. And then it kind of intensified and the door had I don't know what you call that word or that beam that goes like on
Oh,
the
that locks it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh but it's on the outside. So the scratching part stopped, but then the door from the inside started like pushing out and bending the thing. So at this point, he was like, "Oh, hell no. I don't want to mess with this." And before he could do anything about it, he dropped his flashlight or of course or something, and it went dark. And when he got his bearings to see like how to get out of there, he looked that direction and he said in front of where the door had been pressing, even darker shadow was like coming together, materializing in like a very tall humanoid shape. And he got the worst heebie-jeebie, creepy crawlies, hair standing on end, everything, and he booked it out of there so fast and quit and was like, "I'm never going back there. I'm not doing that job ever again." And that took a lot for him to do that because he was like experienced in like horrible things. So he was like, "Nope, that's not for me." So the owners took that to heart and hire a private a paranormal investigator and some other people to come like investigate
Mhm.
because they didn't want this to keep happening, obviously. And when they went down to investigate, the paranormal investigator, when they walked into the room, collapsed, like just fell down on the ground and was like, oh my god, I can't feel my legs. Oh my god, and like was just laying prone on the floor. The other people were like, oh my god, what's going on? Da, 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 da. And the owner later, when they helped them out or whatever, said that that space, maybe in the 20s or the 30s, had been like a mafia house where
Uh,
they would take people down to the basement and like
mhm.
ball bats on their knees or like do bad things down in the basement area.
Mhm.
So they weren't like forthcoming with the security guard about that information. But I guess when the paranormal investigators went to investigate, they kind of were like, yeah, this does have a history here. And so that's something
Oh,
that
wow.
creeped me the hell out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's just it's haunted Hollywood,
Yeah.
and there's so many buildings in that area specifically that have these really intense, in-depth histories to them. They weren't always. It wasn't always the comedy story. It was this before that, and that before that, and that before that, and then there didn't even used to be a road there. It was just like all orange trees and
Right.
whatnot. But that goes back to like, is it I wonder if it's the location and it's soaking up this energy. Because I would imagine if it was a mafia, a
Oh,
hold up place, there was some stuff.
things happened. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That the person that fell down and was like, like they were being held down, or it's very dramatic. Was it Zach Baggins? Didn't they go and investigate the Comedy Store at one point?
I don't know. Maybe was it? Oh, what? I don't know if that was the name of the person that told me, but it's possible. I'm sure many people have gone there because it has that history and other places in Hollywood. Zach
Yeah.
Baggins. I don't
You don't you don't know who that is?
Mm-mm.
Oh, Ghost Adventures, the show?
Uh,
Never heard of it?
maybe
Oh,
it's
okay.
the
All
like
right.
night cam stuff going into this.
I don't yeah, I seem to recall some group went to I think it was the Comedy
Comedy-
Store, and it was right after, or like a year after, what was his name? Brody Stevens passed away. He was a really great comic. Yeah. I don't know. They said they made contact. I don't know. I don't know.
oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a strange show. All right. Yeah, well, you were saying like you wanted to hear my story of the
Yeah.
Sam French, but I don't really have any like specific things that happened there. There was just that because I had heard about the old gentleman who used to work there, and he was beloved by all, and he died. I didn't know that he might have died there. I was not aware of that. But yeah, just it's a really old building, old, the
Yeah.
stone floors, the original walls, all that, very old. And whenever you had to close up at night, especially like if it was down to like you and like one other person, there was just you didn't notice it during the day when it was bustling and actors going in and out, but at night when it got real quiet and the doors were locked and Sunset Boulevard quieted down, there was just a real weird energy
Oh,
there. Yeah, yeah. I never heard the footsteps on the stairs though.
yes. I mean, it could be the building settling too. I mean, there's always explanations for things, but it specifically was always from the stairs. So like
Yeah.
the stairs were settling a lot. I
It
don't know.
it could have been the
It,
cockroaches because they were big.
they were big. Yeah, yeah. That just made me think of the place that I worked at next door. The restaurant had a
Oh
very
yeah.
sordid history too. So that place was haunted as well because I don't know if you recall, but the lady that used to run that bar restaurant, she had like three sons, and like obviously everything comes in the story, but one of them threw himself off the roof and committed suicide there. And so that one, I think, is still on those premises because always like closing up there late at night around 3 or 4 in the morning when I would had to be there alone closing that place up, there was such an unsettling feeling. Not always, but a couple times. I remember one time I was in the office upstairs by myself, and I had this very strong, oh, I have a shit, other scary thing, strong feeling of someone behind me. And I knew everyone had gone for the night. And I remember just being like, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look. Just keep doing your thing, get the computer thing going. You just got to get out of here really quick. Da, da, da,
Oh.
da. And at some point, I had to get up and leave that way. But I think I had psyched myself up enough to not look. But it took everything in me to finally get up and like eyes at the floor and like walk out of there. I feel like there was something else. Other people would see a woman in the bathroom in the women's restroom, and no one was like in there. I don't know. It just that whole little area.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's my last story. And then this one is strange. So I was spending the night at a friend's house, and everything was fine. And I was sound asleep, but around like 3 or 4 in the morning, I had this very I'm a lightsaber, but I had this very odd feeling that someone else was in the room. But I'm casual, like it's not my house, so like I don't know what's going on here. So I, I woke up and looked, but no one else is there. But I felt something to my right, and it didn't feel good. But I was also tired, and I didn't want to like. I'm not the most bravest or most adventurous, whatever. So I was not going to fight some spirit. So I just like I'm not gonna think about it, and I just rolled over onto my side, like to face away from it, and was laying there. And then I'm like, I'm just gonna go back to sleep. Like whatever it is, will go away. Da, 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 da. But here's the kicker. Here's what was very strange to me is that I got a word came to my head very vividly, very clearly uh, when this happened, but it didn't really mean anything to me. It sounded like, "La, la, 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 la," but it was like Osmodeus. I don't know, something like
Like a name.
Greek or Latin or like a name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, whatever, I don't know what that is. Or, like it doesn't, blah, blah, blah. I fell back asleep. But then in the morning, I remembered that name or that word. So I like was Googling like different spellings and stuff, something. And the one thing that did come up was pretty terrifying because it was the name of some kind of like demon or nightmare, something, something, something. So nothing happened. Nothing bad happened. I don't feel like I'm possessed or like anything like that, but it just was random to me that that word came into my brain, which I had no idea what it was, what it meant, or anything, just out of nowhere. So after feeling like a weird like energy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that's it. So that's all my paranormal experience for now.
You know what? It never ceases to amaze me. The folks that I have asked to come on the show, and they're like, I got a couple things. I didn't, nothing really happened, and then you tell the coolest stories. So
I mean, if something more exciting happened, I maybe, but I don't know, just random experiences. I think there's a lot of cool stuff out there. There's a lot of fun
yeah.
things out there. So
Yeah, and it's a testament to like because not everybody is going to have a ton of it's not just like from sun up to sundown like oh if the paranormal's real it's going to be happening blah blah blah. No, it's like I think it's much like everybody if you're paying attention or if you're aware have a certain level of awareness these things just kind of randomly are going to pop up and you'll always think back on these events these um just alone events that happen to you are like, "Oh, that was a strange, unexplainable thing," or, a name popped up in my head that just happened to be like one of the biggest demon names that there is. Hello.
that was
Yeah.
more scary the morning after when I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Why? Where? What?" Yeah,
Hmm. Well, I wonder just because nothing like happened to you at that point, I wonder if it was, if it was something standing there, if it was meant to be an intimidating thing rather than this is my name. I don't know.
I don't know.
Strange.
I was too bored to deal with it, so
All right. All right. Well, before we round out the show, So I noticed on your social medias you are very much into like vibrational and light energy things and just that's why I called you a peace seeker at the beginning of this because you're
I
you're
like
very much like love one another and all of that. I'm just wondering if you can kind of speak to that a little bit, like your journey, how that journey has been for you. Why did that start? Have you always been that way? Like, what are your beliefs with energy and vibration and all of that?
I don't think I've always been. I maybe have always kind of been sensitive, but I don't know if that's the right word to describe it. But I definitely think I had. Uh, I think I was more aware of it as a child, but then I think growing into adulthood, I think it kind of got distanced from me, or I got a little more separated from like maybe that inner kind of guidance type of thing.
Hmm.
But then I kind of had a rough breakup and a rough relationship that kind of left me feeling lost and in the dark. And I remember, I don't know if you remember, I had a very strong impulse one day to go to this area that's on the Miracle Mile, well, sure, where there's a bunch, it's like an art installation that has like a bunch of street lamps or like,
Hmm.
old school gas street lamps, like maybe like 500 of them all together, which is
Hmm.
really beautiful. But something in me was like calling me to go. It was like, you need the light right now. You need some kind of light, and that's the only thing I could think of because it was getting dark, and I was like, "Oh, I need to be something in me. I need to. I'm like a maybe I was a moth in like a past life, and I need to like find my light. I don't know." But I went there, and when that happened, it just felt very right or very. Uh, it felt good. So then I just decided from that point on, maybe in order to climb out of where I had been, I needed to start trusting my personal impulses
Hmm.
or my inner guidance system a little bit more than I had been recently. And I think we all do as kids, but I think something comes along, maybe just me, something came along that kind of distanced me from really tapping into myself and
Hmm.
what I wanted to do, or like like what I said, following my impulses. And then so along with that came like learning from other people that uh like the law of attraction thing, or like kind of like setting your vibration. I'm talking so much woo 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 words right now. I feel like this is the LA guy.
I
Uh,
like woo 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 words.
Let me think clearly. Um, when you kind of get in touch with your inner self, uh, it's like that inner child that is always rooting for you, always there for you, always thinks the good things are coming to you, always thinks anything is possible, paranormal stuff, whatever. And when you kind of tap into that, you get a momentum going, or you kind of get like maybe it's the law of attraction thing, but you set like a certain vibration that all that stuff starts attracting. And so all the little things that you're thinking about, like I was saying earlier at the beginning, uh, they just start materializing or appearing. And it's just crazy. And I think it's because for myself, when I've gotten to that point, and I do a lot of meditation to help quiet my mind to get there, it just starts easily, effortlessly flowing to me.
Hmm.
And I am shocked and surprised at how easy it is. And then I have days where the news or something like spins me out of control. There's another LA thing. I call it like surfing. I feel like once you get in the zone of surfing, you're like you're just in a zone of like catching the wave, riding the wave, getting back on, getting another one, da 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 da. And then there's some moments where you fall off and you feel hard on yourself or negative or whatever, but you just got to get back on the surfboard and keep trying to get in the right zone to catch that wave, to keep riding
Hmm.
that moment. So that's I mean, does that answer the question? Because that's
Yeah.
so convoluted.
No, no, no. It did answer the question. I just I think maybe I'm jealous of that awareness to be because I know what you're talking about when you talk about, like the surfing metaphor, like when you're catching the wave and you're on the board and everything's great and it's bam, 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 bam. It can be so
Yeah,
easy and then you get knocked off or you fall off or whatever. I get the difference between that zone and the horrible days that you have or you get bad news and or just the days that nothing goes right, like those,
yeah,
and you get sucked back into, I don't want to call it the matrix, but like just the matrix of just existing and next step, and not really having that awareness anymore and just being in that vibration, I guess. I don't know
yeah.
how else to explain it, but because I always have to pull myself back to there. I always have to remind myself, be present, get back into feeling that way and thinking that way and being open to things. Get back there because we all so easily, effortlessly just go back into that mind numbing kind of, this is the day today, this is the, like just existing. So I don't know.
I but I also think it's very easy to get back. It's easier than we put all the weight of how hard it is to get
Yeah.
back to the zone. We just psych ourselves out on thinking it's too hard to get back there.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah.
Easiest thing. It does take practice, or like a gym. Like you just have to kind of work on it because it's not something I've ever been taught, or no one ever said to me clearly would be way beneficial
Mhm.
to our health, to everything. But it's just something that I guess you have to come upon on your own because that's probably the best way. Because if it's handed to you, you're like, I think that's.
Oh,
I like that you're working on it, though. That's good. That's a good start.
oh yeah, no, it's a journey of years in the making, and
Yeah,
haven't quite gotten there yet. But yeah,
it's
I like that you meditate. You do it regularly too, and do you think that that's a big help in keeping yourself like making it so easy?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. All
It's not
right.
everyone's cup of tea, but 100%.
Wonderful. All right. Well, you know what? I think that's a great place to kind of round us out to our
Perfect.
ending here. So I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you, and
Okay.
then a fun thing I've designed specifically for you, my friend. So,
Right. Right.
so
There.
for first question, what has been your biggest takeaway from all experiences that you've had with the paranormal, with the supernatural, with anything liminal, working with energy? Biggest takeaway.
Um, the biggest takeaway is, I guess, a sense of wonderment or awe. Awe is a better word. Awe at the unexplainable, you know, what's going on. Like this whole conversation was like trying to figure out, but I think what's valuable is that all those experiences always filled me maybe scared a little bit, but like the sense of awe.
Okay. No, I like that. All right. Uh, you went through a couple of years of intense chaos being at ground zero of something. You know what I'm talking about, the last few years.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how can people find peace in chaos?
That's a whole other podcast to talk about that whole experience because, child, let me tell you, the things I learned. That was my Vietnam experience because I felt after that, like there was like so many things I saw on the front lines that I was like, whoa, this is not cool. This is not. Anyway, but let's not get into that today. Okay. So the question was this helped me during that time and all the time. And it's kind of what I was touching base on earlier. It's going to be towards a question to you. How do you find your stability in an unstable world?
Ooh, okay. I don't know the answer to that.
Which is fine. Uh, because you can't ask the world to change to grant you stability because it won't.
Hmm.
So, how do you find your stability in an unstable world? And the answer or the advice or the guidance is to get in touch with your inner guidance system, your inner self, because it has always been stable. It has always been there for you, and it will always continue to be.
This interview took on a whole like just right turn like away from what I thought we were going to be talking about. This is wonderful. Just wonderful. Thank you, Tim. All right, I'll just do one more. The thing I have designed for you specifically.
Okay.
It's being an actor.
Mhm.
I've got a word association game for you.
Oh,
Okay, Supernatural edition. So I'll say a word and just first thing that comes to your mind. All
okay.
right. Sasquatch.
Scary.
Hat Man.
Hatman or Batman?
Hat Man.
Hatman? Fedora?
Poltergeist.
I never saw it.
Rougarou.
Rougarou, like something Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, fair, fair. Halloween.
Ah, enjoyment.
Ghost.
Peaceful.
UFO.
Strange.
Zach Baggins.
I'm curious. I'm gonna have to look up who that is.
All right. All right. I think that is going to do it for our conversation today. This has been fun. This has been so
Thank
fun and
you.
very reminiscent of how we used to chat back in the day.
It's great.
Um, so, where would you like my listeners to find you if they want to learn more or get in touch, anything like that?
On Instagram, uh, or if they like Instagram, I think my thing is Bohemian Tim, and then I'm on Facebook too, just as my name is Tim Coultas. So I just have those. I don't have all the other ones yet. I'm trying to limit my screen time to more meditation. Oh,
Good luck.
that's
Yeah.
another trick is if you do meditate or because every night you go to sleep, it's like an instant reset on your bad being in the matrix computer. Even if you take a nap, it kind of resets you. So in the morning, try to this is me being like right now. Try and avoid touching your phone first thing in the morning. Try and do something that's going to reconnect you. Walk, eat right, whatever, something like that first
Mm.
because the phone to me I always fell off the surfboard when I grabbed my phone first to just to see what time it was. And then I got this notification that always took me away from where I needed to get originally. So that's just a tip.
Wonderful. Well, I mean, I was going to ask you that might be it, but did you have a final thought that you'd like to leave us with?
That that
That okay. All right. Very cool. Thank you so much, Tim.
you're
Thank you so
welcome.
much
Thank
for
you so
coming
much.
on.
My
Yeah.
pleasure. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you to Tim for joining me on today's show. It was so great to hear and see you again, my friend. Head over to Instagram and Facebook and give him a follow and let him know your thoughts about his stories and experiences. He will love that. Before we wrap, a special thank you and hello to the new followers on YouTube, dudes. The feedback and the comments, I'm loving them. I'm loving seeing them. Keep them coming. If you have not checked out the video versions of these episodes yet, head over to YouTube and give them a watch. I swear to you, I promise you, I do have a face. I'm not just a voice in the darkness. While you're over there, subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon so you get notified whenever a new episode drops. And, of course, you can always connect with me on any social at Paranorm Girl Pod. Shoot me a message, paranormgirlpod@gmail.com. So many ways to connect, so little time. On a serious note, I really, sincerely,
always appreciate hearing from you guys, and your feedback is always very appreciated. That, of course, is going to be a wrap for today's show. Join me next week for something a bit different than the usual Paranorm Girl fare. I have been stupid giddy about this one since I knew it was coming. I will be talking Bigfoot with Tim and Dana Halloran, the hosts of the Bigfoot Influencers podcast. Crazy cool, and I cannot wait. Until then, as always, stay safe, keep the nightlight on, and sleep with one eye open.